The Legacy of a Whitetail Deer Hunter stars Josh Brolin and Danny McBride and is directed by Jody Hill. The celebrity hunter Buck Ferguson and his longtime cameraman Don set out for an epic weekend in the woods when Buck decides to take his 12-year-old son Jaden to hunt his very first deer. I gotta say guys, it's so cool to be reviewing something that isn't an action blockbuster because I've been doing so many of them lately and it was really cool to just settle in and start doing a comedy again. And I mean, these action blockbusters I've been reviewing have ranged anywhere from mediocre to really bad, but look, we won't go there again.
This is not why we're here.
Jody Hill has in the past brought us really interesting quirky comedies that really deal with interesting male protagonists quite often, like his hit TV series like Vice Principal, or films like Observe and Report. And within these male protagonists and characters, he always has something really interesting to say, often finding the humor and also the real depth. The Legacy of a Whitetail Deer Hunter's first 10 minutes start very strong with an epic first 10 minutes introducing us to all of the main characters, Buck, Don, and also Jaden. Now, Buck has a real love of hunting, we can see, and he also has a love for being a celebrity, making his hit TV show Buck Fever with his longtime cameraman Don. Now look, to say Josh Brolin brings in a great performance is kind of redundant at this point. He's always excellent. He's a fantastic actor and he's really been knocking it out of the park in recent years. There's an excellent scene that he shares with Don earlier in the movie where he's in his car and discussing camera angles for the opening shot of the show where he's going to be reunited with Jaden. And Buck is really adamant about hitting all the emotional beats and he's discussing this with his cameraman Don. And Don, who's played by Danny McBride here, is not a confident man. He often submits a lot reluctantly to Buck's requests whenever he asks for them, and so it sets up a really interesting dynamic between those two characters. Shortly after this, we have a scene where Don has the camera rolling while Buck gives Jaden his old rifle, and what should be a great bonding moment is actually ruined by both characters being distracted by external influences here. Jaden is distracted by his phone, and Buck is distracted by capturing great shots for his TV show, and so that really sets up an interesting dynamic with that relationship as well. So far we have excellent character introductions and we have a really strong first 10 minutes. The problem here is that once the characters have set up camp in the woods, the film really takes a dive and Hill goes from scene to scene here without really bringing the same passion and enthusiasm and inspiration that he brought to the first 10 minutes of the film. And so when young Jaden declares, "I'm bored," you almost get the sense the crew is as well. And while the cinematography and editing to this film is fine, it's not outstanding. It doesn't really do much to highlight the excellent locations in North Carolina where the film was actually shot. There's also a lot of country music here, and while that was fine and it started off very good and it sort of set the mood for what this film was going for, the film resorts to playing country music songs almost back to back in its later half, and it gets to a point where it just got really grating for me, but it may not be a bad thing if you really dig country music.
What kind of music do you usually have here?
Oh, we got both kinds. We got country and western.
The screenplay sadly does have its problems of its own, and I think what's going on here is that Whitetail Deer Hunter doesn't have that sense of identity, anything really fresh to bring to the table. Buck is out there in the woods, right, with his son, and his son, Jaden, is bored and would rather play on his phone. And that's all fine. The thing is that we have that information in the first 10 minutes of the film, you see. And unfortunately, what happens after that period is that Whitetail Deer Hunter relies on a lot of cliches in order to get its story across, rather than giving it something fresh, its own identity. And that's what's sorely missing here. Hill has the two characters talking about Jaden's mum remarrying, and as you can guess, Buck then spends a great deal of time trying to one-up his ex-wife's new partner. And Legacy does find a little bit of humor and a little bit of drama in all of this, but it's not enough in order to get by. And the father and son story here, the crux of this movie, is sadly missing a little bit of heart. If you do need a reason to check this film out, it would be the excellent cast that we have here on display. And McBride does bring in a few chuckles here and there. He is a funny guy, and he is quite solid in this role. The young Montana Jordan definitely holds his own in his first on-screen acting gig against McBride and also Brolin. And Brolin really tries hard here to really depict Buck as a three-dimensional character here. He's really trying to find the subtlety and depth, and it really is on display in the closing moments of this film where Buck does stare down the rifle towards a deer. And it's a brilliant ending to this movie once again. Unfortunately, it just all comes in a little bit too late, and unfortunately the lasting impression of Buck is really just a parody of the white American hunter. Guys, this is just such a frustrating film, I've got to say, because the first 10 minutes, once again, are so excellent, and then the film dips after that, and it never really recovers from that. And I can't quite tell whether Hill was unaware or if he was just uninspired to tell this particular story. It's not really my job to tell filmmakers how they should have made their film. I can only review what's presented to me. And what Hill does present in the first 10 minutes is an golden opportunity to take this father-son relationship in a really interesting and bold direction. Buck and Jaden are both distracted on this hunting trip for completely different reasons. It's external influences that are distracting them. With Jaden, it's his phone. With Buck, it's his obsession with creating a really compelling hunting show. But it presents it but doesn't really do anything with it, and it would have been so cool if this film had gone in that direction. Instead, these characters are pitted in cliche situations that we've seen in so many films before, guys, and it's such a shame. Hill finds a little bit of humor and a little bit of depth, and we have a really committed cast here, but beyond that, it's really just an okay watch, and not the compelling film that this film sets out to make in the first 10 minutes. It had so much potential to be more, but as such, I've got to give The Legacy of a Whitetail Deer Hunter 2.5 stars.
Don't worry, I got it.
Oh, Jesus.
So guys, have you seen The Legacy of a Whitetail Deer Hunter? What did you think? Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this film, and while you're there, also let me know what your favorite Josh Brolin film is of all time. If you dug this review, don't forget to flick a like and subscribe so we can chat movies together, and also hit that little notification bell so you never miss a movie review. Until next time, guys, remember, a weekend watching movies is a weekend well spent. Thanks heaps for watching.